Good morning, members, officers and viewers. Thank you for attending this morning. This scrutiny committee is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021 and will be operated alongside Council Standing Orders. The Council Standing Orders and Code of Conduct will apply at all times. Members should conduct themselves accordingly. You can those attending switch off their cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise. And I also remind members to ensure that their chat function is switched on. They use that facility to indicate when they want to take a right to. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so. And remember to unmute your microphone and switch on your camera. The recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded to the public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Whilst transcripted proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recordings may be also used for training purposes in the council. As we're dealing with the annual Welsh report, the Welsh translation may be very appropriate. Can we have any apologies, please?
Apologies, Chair, for Councillor Debbie Jenkins and Councillor Matthew Evans.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest?
I'm the Welsh champion. Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harris. Then the minutes of previous meetings, please, page 3 to 6. For accuracy. Are you okay with that? Thank you. Any matters arising? Okay. Right, moving on to the annual Welsh Language Monitoring Report 23-24. Ms. McKinney, are you going to talk on this?
Thanks, I'll introduce.
Joseph online.
Yeah, Joseph isn't very well, so he's watching online
Right.
just for his own information, but he won't be
Fine.
presenting, unfortunately.
We'll get better soon.
Thanks. So obviously our colleague Joe, I just want to credit him because he's done a lot of work in writing the report. Today, myself and Janice Dent, who's a service manager who leads on Welsh language, will present, and we've also got Rhys Cornwall, who you know is the strategic director responsible. If I just give some overarching context and then Janice will run through the report. So, of course, Scrutiny, you are the audience today and the audience for the report, but ultimately the audience is a statutory context and the Welsh Language Commissioner. So there's some really important statutory things we need to cover in this report for the Commissioner. And I guess for the Welsh language community, it's statutory and has to be published by the 30th of June. So it'll be published in its draft format. It also goes on to Cabinet and Council after scrutiny today, and scrutiny member comments will go with the report. And if we need to, we can make some adjustments along the way. We have written the report in such a way that it meets the statutory requirements. You'll see the tables and stats, but also that it's of interest to councillors and the public, and it captures everything we do, which is, you know, some really exciting, vibrant stuff that Janice will mention. And it's our 8th annual report in compliance with the Welsh language standards, and we think a step up actually from previous reports. Jan, do you want to take us through some of the details?
Yeah, so bore da, as Tracy said, so there's 2 parts to the report, and what we've done based on feedback is that the tables, the monitoring tables, which are the requirement, is of interest to scrutiny members and everybody else as well. But we've put those towards the end just to make the report easier to be able to navigate. When I say we, I predominantly mean Joe, obviously, and the work that he's put in. So it has been prepared in line with good practice from the Welsh Language Commissioner, so kind of really positive about this report. I also wanted to talk about the engagement and the key activities, and I wanted to provide a special thank you to Councillor Harris as well for all the support that Councillor Harris has provided in our community events and in kind of, you know, spreading the message and acknowledging the Welsh language throughout the whole of Newport. So thank you to Councillor Harris. So the main achievements that we wanted to bring out were the Cymraeg Gwaith initiative. So this started earlier this year, really positive for us. It's a partnership with Coleg Gwent and with the National Centre for Learning Welsh. So they have funded a secondment of a specific tutor that's working in the council for us. So it means that we can tailor our kind of Welsh language lessons around the words and the language that we use within the council. And it's enabled us to have a lot more flexibility in the way that we offer Welsh language training as well. So that's been a really, really positive initiative. And we're just about to roll into year 2 of that and start some new sessions as well. So really positive initiative there. We've also, as members will know, we've launched the new phase 1 of the new website. It is the first fully bilingual website using the Drupal Gov kind of open source platform. So we're really proud of that, and was actually recognised in our mystery shopper exercise and compliance interview this year as a step forward for us. So that's some really, really good news. We've also managed to obtain the casnewydd.gov.uk domain this year, which is really helping again with that kind of Welsh language compliance, and also people seeing Welsh when they kind of approaching the council. And all of our council email addresses now are linked to at casnewydd.gov.uk as well as at newport.gov.uk, so people can send us an email using the Welsh domain or the English domain, and it'll still come through to the same inbox. So that's really helpful for us. And we've also launched this year the Many Faces of Welshness campaign. So we've talked about this for a couple of years and started it during COVID with the previous Welsh language policy officer, but because it was COVID, we didn't get as far as we kind of would have hoped. But we did launch it. Councillor House, you were there as well when you had the launch, together with somebody from the Welsh Language Commissioner's Office. And it's really positive. It's the voices of people in Newport, children, young people in Newport, about why Welsh language is important in Newport and how we can encourage parents of the children that are learning Welsh to start learning as well. So that was really, and there's a link in the report to those videos, but really, really positive. The Welsh language promotional activity, so we've supported quite a few events. The main reason is to kind of see Welsh in Newport and to hear Welsh in Newport, but it also gives us the opportunity to further encourage and inform parents and children and people of the opportunities to learn bilingually and to attend a bilingual school. So these are really, really positive. We've had the Gwener Welsh language event, and that's coming up again in the autumn, so we'll be there again this year. And we also held the first St David's event on the 1st of March in the riverfront with local schools performing, and we're hoping to extend that next year into a parade and a mini Eisteddfod for Newport. So we're working with our schools at the moment because there's a real passion around that and a real enthusiasm. And again, it's the opportunity for Welsh to be seen and heard across the whole of the city. And then we've also managed to employ a Welsh language translation officer this year that is really helping us to make sure that we're efficient and effective with our translations. He only started in the end of October, but he's already made a huge difference. And a massive thank you to Liam as well, because he was responsible for translating most of the phase 1 of the website. So it's been a really lovely, yes, a bit of a baptism of fire, come straight in and translated that for us. In relation to the monitoring data, there's a lot in there, as you'll see. But the main ones I wanted to pick up was that all of our vacancies this year were designated as Welsh language as desirable as a minimum. So that's a really positive step for us. And the job descriptions and everything were available bilingually as well for anybody that did want to apply. We do have to report on complaints as part of the report. We've received 9 during the period. Personally, I don't think complaints are a bad thing. I think it does enable us to make sure that we're continuously learning, and it means that people feel that they can approach us if we do get something wrong, to be able to find out why and know that we'll fix it as well. So we had 9 received, 7 direct to the council and 2 from the Welsh Language Commissioners, and 8 of them have been resolved, and we're still waiting for a response from the Welsh Language Commissioner on the 9th. But all of the detail is within the pack as well. And really positively, the training buy-in from the staff has increased. So we've had an increase of about 70% in the amount of people that have attended the Welsh language awareness training sessions that Joe runs. And that's a massive achievement for us in the year, and shows, I think, the culture in the organisation as everybody acknowledging how important Welsh language is for all of us across the whole of our services. So those are the main kind of positive things in the report, as well as our staff Welsh language skills. So we ask our staff to self-assess their Welsh language skills, and we've got about 29% of our workforce that said that they've got some Welsh language skills, which is really positive. And 7.9%, so just under 8%, have got advanced or above, intermediate, sorry, and above, which is representative of the latest census figures that we have for Newport. And I think I really want to pick out the changes in the contact centre. So we now have 4 Welsh speakers within the contact centre, and that's really helped us with Welsh language inquiries through the council. So that's been a really positive progress this year. And then it goes on to kind of what do we want to talk about the next year? What are our priorities for this year? So it is about continuing the work that we're doing. I mentioned the St. David's Day event that we really want to grow this year, and we are working on a new set of videos to further encourage the bilingual kind of schools aspect.
Thank you very much, Mr. Before I throw it open to the members, could I just say how pleased I am that the Eisteddfod is coming back to Newport? Because when I was in the school system here, it was an integral part of the school year, and it seems to have been dropped now for many a year. But I really am pleased with that, and well done. But over to you now, members, for questions.
Yes, so the Eisteddfod will be a discrete Newport Eisteddfod, is that right?
Yes. So it's just going to be us for St. David's Day. So a mini Eisteddfod. We've got to be careful with how we describe it.
That's right.
It's not the other Eisteddfod.
It's not national.
It's not that, so it's just a mini Eisteddfod.
So, you know, if I think it caveat with Eisteddfod Casnewydd.
Yes, yeah.
So then give people who see it in Welsh and English can see that it's a discrete Newport Eisteddfod and not a national or there may be inter-council Eisteddfods, Eisteddfod Monmouthshire and Newport, that sort of thing, but this is a Eisteddfod Casnewydd would be a discrete Newport Eisteddfod.
Thank you.
Can I share?
Of course.
It's the same issue I raised last year, actually, if you remember. That obviously we're investing a lot of resources into Welsh, and it's obviously having quite a very positive impact from the report you've given. And I mean, what I asked last year is specifically about Welsh medium education, and I was concerned last year in terms of how equitable that was in that, whether that was being taken up by sort of particular groups within Newport, or whether there was a general take up across the board. And I think if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember, I think when the take up of Welsh, for example, was compared, that it was looked at using preschool meals as a measure, there was a slight difference actually in terms of it made free school meals is taken as a sort of measure of deprivation usually in education, isn't it? That children on free school meals were slightly less likely to take up Welsh medium education. So I must say I was hoping that something like that would be in the report, because I think it is very, very important. And I just wondered if that is an issue that's going to be addressed.
I think that's part of our Welsh the West, so the Welsh education. So we can definitely, I take your point, we can make that in and we can provide you that information, but it isn't in this report as such. It will be in the education.
Because if you've got to picture it, inevitably now, with the target of 1 million Welsh speakers, etc., well, the ability to speak Welsh is going to become more and more important, and it could have an impact. For example, we're already said with including Welsh as desirable on job applications, and I think it really is important that the whole thing is equitable. Take up is equitable. Well, I think we want it to be equitable anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mr. Paul?
Thanks, Chair. So I suppose as a suggestion, I think from an officer's point of view, we can pick that up with education. So the Welsh and Education Strategic Plan, obviously they develop that, and that is reviewed on an annual basis as well. I think Jan's a 5-year plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's about an increase in education provision. So I would expect to see that in that report, but we can reference that, I think, here and link it in. And the committee might want to write to the People Scrutiny Committee to raise that as a point for when, because that report will go through that committee,
Okay.
part of education.
Okay.
So you might want to do two things. From an officer's point of view, we can link that in. The committee might want as part of its recommendations.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
Right. Sorry, I'll ask some questions if nobody else wants to. You tell us on page 8. Sorry, I'm talking about the same numbers. 2.2. You talk about the Welsh language standards. Where can committee members find those standards?
So there is a link in the report to the Welsh language standards. There's a couple of links in the report. The only thing I need to do, Neil, is check that the links work in the PDF. And if not, I can set the link separately.
Okay.
Contained within the report.
Thank you. We were at the committee yesterday. We've had a few problems with links when they're viewed outside the council chambers.
Right.
You know, they work quite well here. They don't necessarily work remotely. No one else? No. Okay. Looks as though I get to hog the floor this morning. How does you've talked about the 5-year plan for the Welsh language? How do you monitor success definitively?
As well as the tables that we've got here, I think we did discuss this before, but the actual wider success in relation to the 1 million Welsh speakers that you talked about. Unfortunately, just because of the way the reporting is, we have to wait for the census figures for that. But I think some of the kind of successes we've got is, and I know it's in a different report, but it is around how many pupils we do have in our Welsh medium schools. I mean, that's increasing year on year. We have got the monitoring in relation to our staff and the makeup of our staff. And we are having, even though the complaints are still coming through that I talked about, they seem to be for different things, whereas for a while we were having the same issues coming through. Sorry, please.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, and you know, those progressions, like we said about, we do have an annual compliance report from the Welsh Language Commissioner that kind of does mystery shopper exercises and shows how we're performing as a council as well. So we've got all of those things that help us to see that we're on the right trajectory.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I suppose just build on that. I think realistically, what we can do through this process is agree a series of activities we're going to undertake and monitor our implementation of those activities, the impacts of those activities. The overall strategic intention with the Welsh language measure is growth of about 1 million Welsh speakers, and a lot of that is fundamentally outside of our control. We've got a part to play in the promotion of Welsh language, and from an organisation point of view, ensure we do a variety of things. As we're part of the challenge with the census data for us is between 2011 and 2021, we saw a dramatic upturn in population increase for Newport of 9.5%, and actually a decrease in the percentage of people in Newport speaking Welsh. So what we're balancing against is us increasing education provision and us actually increasing accessibility to the Welsh language with an influx of individuals essentially from outside of the region. Welsh is not one of their native languages, so there's a balance there. So I don't think we could hold on to, are we increasing the proportion of the population who's speaking Welsh? I think what we need to look at is how we increase the awareness and accessibility of the Welsh language across Newport, and as an organisation, and also.
Well, if the population increases, and if your Welsh language is steady, the percentage is about to decrease. So just maths, isn't it? Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. I note that in your priorities for next year, where is the exact wording? So one of your new priorities is an increased focus on recruitment, retention and development of Welsh speakers across all service areas within the council. And I think that's a great idea. However, when I looked at Appendix 2, I noticed that some areas were certainly in greater need of Welsh language development than others. For example, and it's perhaps at the most extreme end of the scale, the strategic directors have only a basic level of Welsh. I think, we really ought to be leading by example. Our leaders need to lead by example. So do you have specific plans to concentrate on the areas of the council with the greatest need? And if so, could you share them?
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we've got a couple of so I agree with your point, and that's one of the reasons that we went with obviously I agree with the kind of Cymraeg-wide initiative to be able to offer those different flexible ways in which to learn. So one of the things is 10-hour kind of online just to get everybody to a basic level that we're going to be kind of focusing on those particular areas with. But we also have legislative requirements as well within some of our areas. So social services, as an example, have a particular requirement for an active offer that they have to. So there's a lot of the focus has been to date has been on social services and education, because that's where the kind of main legislative kind of responsibility is. But yeah, we are looking at different ways in which we can make sure that we have got some kind of cover across the basis. And I talked about the customer services and the particular effort that's gone into there. So Joe, as an example, has been going out to our Welsh medium schools to promote using Welsh when applying and working within the council. So, and again, looking at across the whole of the service areas. So I think people know about working at the council in the corporate kind of back office, and Welsh being important. We're trying to encourage people to think about the wider job opportunities within the council and how Welsh can be used there. So I think it's a mixture of different initiatives that we've got to be able to kind of help that cover across the whole of the organisation. But the 10-hour course, when that's available from the National Centre, Joe and I have got a particular kind of focus on bullying, not bullying, but kind of working with our strategic directors to do those courses. And like I said, I think what is also happening is that incidental Welsh that we've encouraged people. So as an example, our chief executive opens every meeting now with Bora Dar or from Dar, and just starting to kind of make sure that it's being used as widely as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, you want to add?
Yeah, I totally take the point, Councillor James, around it. So, and just to say, so I think the chief executive sets a really good example. She, actually sounds to me reasonably proficiently Welsh, and uses Welsh more than just around us. She uses Welsh in most occasions that she can, and I have already committed to doing the 10-hour course. The previous provision we had in place was a bit of a challenge, I think, for senior officers, because it was quite time restricted. This is a more flexible option, so I think we've probably got more chance to do it. And again, my Welsh is not brilliant, but I do use Welsh in any opportunity that I can. And if it's beyond my limited means, I normally get Joe or another colleague to do some additional words as well. But you are right. If we want those behaviours within the organisation, they need to be seen to be promoted by senior officers within the organisation.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to say as well, our staff conference this year is going to be the first ever bilingual presentation. So again, just to show that we are trying to make sure that it's being heard and seen and used across the whole of the council.
Okay, that's great. Are there any other questions? No. Councillor Harris, do you want to say anything as the Welsh language champion?
Well, what I'd like to encourage is that Welsh is used in the organisation. I know structures have been put in to actually get staff to learn it. As a learner myself, it's exposure to the language which helps learning. And the more Welsh is used, then all people feel comfortable in using the language. Because people feel uncomfortable, but unsure. They probably know what to say, but they're unsure about making a mistake. Now, a lot of Welsh speakers put English words in their conversation, so it's normal. So, and you don't want to make a fool of yourself trying the language and it's not working, but a Welsh speaker will appreciate that you're trying, and if you can try to use the language, people around you will help you promote encourage you to use it, or use the word that you're missing, or you say, oh, what's the word for if you learn sort of stock phrases like that, then people will help you, and it's getting over that uncomfortableness of using the language when you're not really fluent, and that's an issue which comes with exposure.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Right, so there's no more questions on this one. Can we draw this one to a close by looking at the guidance and the recommendations on page 7 and see if we can agree on those? Okay. First one is, does this reflect a true account of the Welsh language performance over the year? We agree that it does. Yeah. Nobody said it doesn't. Whether or not the annual report highlights the ongoing commitments, and I think the office have demonstrated that there is an ongoing commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Councillor James, you trying to get in?
Sorry, no, I'm agreeing.
All right, okay. And are we focused on the appropriate areas for future development? Again, I think the officers have told us about that. And whether it wishes to provide comment and recommendations on the annual report to Cabinet, and we do, and we want it sent to the other scrutiny committee people as well. Have you got the words that we would like you to send, Neil?
Yes, Council, we can do that. Also, comments around the comments that I've taken down of Councillor Harris. It is important that people know it's discreet. Instead of the report, Councillor Cox's query, which we said advised to send a letter to the people committee. Your query, Chair, about the Welsh language standards, where they found Jan Vice links to report. We checked the links are working. There are issues when looking outside the civic. Apart from those, was there any other comments or recommendations that you would like to make?
On the referral to scrutiny committee, I think it was also to strengthen the information on the Welsh Educational Strategic Plan within the report, just to make sure those things were really clear.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Nice for your attendance this morning.
Goodbye.
Okay, moving on to the scrutiny annual report, and we've got the deputy services manager here this morning to lead us through that one.
Yeah, so I'll just do an introduction in Leanne's absence. She's obviously tied up with elections work at the moment, and then I'll hand it to Neil to kind of run through the report in a bit more detail. So the annual report is a requirement within the Constitution for us to submit one annual report every year to Council on the work of the overview and scrutiny function over the previous 12 months. The previous report was brought to committee in December 2023, but this one covers the period May 23 to April 24, so we're bringing it in a bit more of a timely manner this time around. So the report looks at the work done by Scrutiny in this period and also our actions going forward for the next sort of 12-month period. So yeah, I'll hand over to Neil to just run through a bit more detail.
So basically, the scrutiny committees are required by the Constitution to submit an annual report each year to the council, just to review on the work of what the review and scrutiny committees have done in the last 12 months. In this year's edition of the annual report, it just gives an introduction and background, explaining what scrutiny is, how the public can get involved with the purpose of the annual report. We've also noted the key developments that have been made in the previous year. Committees were looking at a load of agenda items, some regular, some new, and some ad hoc. We also listed comments and recommendations which have been made officers of the cabinet. One of the key developments was the establishment of a policy review group where we looked at the estates and future property services. So this was Scrutiny's first policy review group since 2017. So 5 members of the committees got together over a period of 4 meetings to put the comments, recommendations, and this went forward through to cabinet. We've also included an actions update of the work that we've done this year, such as training was provided to the scrutiny chairs and members on topics like facilitation, good practices, and effective questioning. Quarterly meetings of committee chairs were also reinstated to strengthen work programming and identify development needs. Minutes were standardised across committees to improve accessibility, and we've also improved the comments and recommendations process, better quality and consistency. We've also included the planned actions for this upcoming year, such as standardising agendas across the committees, looking to do this by August 24, incorporate outcomes monitoring into the scrutiny advisors reports by August as well, and also update our documents such as the scrutiny team manual and officer handbook, looking to do this by September 24.
Right, thank you. Right, with your permission, committee, can we take this in 2 parts? First part being, are you happy with the accuracy of the report? In other words, it's covered all the meetings that we've had over the year. We've had time to have a look at it. And then if you're content with that, we'll move on to questions and points you wish to raise. But like minutes, are there any points of accuracy that you don't agree with? No? Okay, thank you very much. So if we can move on to questions and comments, please. Councillor Cox.
Okay. On page 47, it describes, what is overview and scrutiny describes our role and our function. Basically, my question was about. I've got 2 points I wish to raise, please, Chair. Both sort of relate to that. And the third bullet point says that one of our functions is to listen to the views of the public and make sure that the public voice is heard. But if you go then to the next page 48, it talks about how we do that. And we do that basically, it says, by broadcasting these meetings and by having an address that people can write to if they wish to. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't find anything else relating to public involvement. And I must say, Chair, maybe think it's a bit strong, this, but I do think that is a bit. I'm not reflecting on the officers. I'm reflecting on us as councillors. I do think it's a bit underwhelming. Really, we should be doing rather more than that to ensure that we have the public's view on the issues that we're looking at, because it's quite clearly laid down there that that's something we should be doing, making sure the public's voice is heard, and that there is a lot of data around on the council, isn't there? A lot of monitoring takes place about services and take up of services, and I know we've discussed that on numerous occasions, and I do think our work would be strengthened going and the report will be strengthened in future if there was much more of an element actually of us looking at what the public think and looking at the public's response to what we're offering as a council. I think very good.
I can take that on board, Chair. Yeah, one of the things that we do, advise that the public can request for items to be added onto the agenda. They can email it to us at our scrutiny@newport.gov.uk address. Obviously, we would need to review the topic that they do refer to see if there is something that scrutiny could, we could get value from looking at. But we can certainly take that on board, Chair.
But we've looked. If you look at the report, the annual report, that obviously there are major areas there, aren't there, relating to larger, social services and the whole areas of the council's work. And what we rarely do, and it isn't. I'm not aware that in the report that there's any specific reference to it or use of it. But what we rarely do is say, well, what do the people out there think about this, because they're the important people at the end of the day.
If I might, Councillor Castle, we had a very similar discussion yesterday at Democratic Services about how we're going to get engagement from the public. And perhaps if you write to Democratic Services and say that maybe this could be a standing order on the 2 agendas a year when we physically meet with the public and see if we can stoke up some interest that way. Unless, if you've got any other tangible suggestion, how do we get the public engaged? It's quite a long discussion yesterday. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say that obviously, we have the participation strategy that we sort of work within that strategy around scrutiny and democratic services generally. And I think we are looking at how we can promote scrutiny to the public so that they're aware that we are running this function and that they can access, the films and things like that. They can live watch, and they can watch back on YouTube. So we are tracking the number of views we have. We've improved our YouTube channel so that we have playlists for the different committees so people can find the committees they want to look at more easily. And then we're also working with PR, and hopefully from now onwards, it's not in this report because it's kind of current, but we're looking to start sending out regular social media updates on our committees and when they are taking place, so that people know the dates, they know the times, they know where they can see them. So we're trying to increase visibility to the public about scrutiny, and then hopefully with that will come more engagement then in what we're doing. And so it's kind of, I think it's part and parcel, isn't it? We can try and engage the public, but we need to boost the profile of the committees and the work that you're doing as well. So yeah.
Do you have any figures to hand about the number of views on?
It is in the report, yeah. By December, it's about 1,000 for the year, yeah. And overview is very much the most popular.
Which is the most popular?
Overview.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
That means 2 people listening 500 times.
It's us doing the minutes. But no, I think it's, we do track those figures as part of this report. So it is in the numbers of views we've got for each of the committees.
Okay, if there are no more questions, can we look at the recommendation?
Can I just, sorry, I can't, sorry, I'm going to be hogging this. I was reading the report that, it's very detailed, and it's a really good description of what we've been doing, or something, relatively new to committee, certainly since I've been on the committee. But the bulk of the comments are about processes, it's about what we said and what conclusions we came to, and what training was undertaken, etc. A lot of it is about process, and that what I found it a little hard to come to a conclusion is, to be quite frank, is what sort of difference we make, because I think we'd all agree, wouldn't we, if we're not making any. I'm not, please don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting for a moment I'm saying we don't make any difference, but it's a duty on us to make sure that we put a lot of time in, our officers put a heck of a lot of time into these meetings, and it's important that's time well spent, and it's actually making a difference. And I can see how it's making a difference to procedures and so forth, but it's a little difficult because, again, if you look at the aims, the purpose of scrutiny, it talks about making sure that we get the best outcomes for the people of Newport. It's about what the council's delivering, we should be looking at, etc. So that was going on my mind as I was going through it, and then of course I was pleased to see at the end that the advisor report that there is going to be much more focus on outcomes, and I'd certainly should just know a little more about that, actually, about how has that been developed yet? Do we know how that's going to work?
We're looking to do this from August, September onwards. So with the comments, recommendations from the committee, we send these on to officers and to cabinet. So with the general comments such as committee requested information, further information about ABC, this is something that we try and chase every 2 weeks from the officers to get that information back. With the outcomes monitoring, what we're trying to do is contact heads of service and officers about the recommendations which the committee have made, about any possible changes or reports or any recommendations, find out are they going to take place, and if not, what the reason was. So this is something that we've been trying to do for quite some time. To start this for the upcoming year.
I think that really strengthens it.
It gives the scrutiny more function, and it gives members opportunity to see where their recommendations are going. Like you said, it's not recommendations that have just gone missing. So we can see why recommendations by the committee are they again accepted by the cabinet, what they intend on doing with these recommendations, and if they've been what the reason was.
And if it makes a difference to what the council is actually doing in terms of services,
The structure of the council, I believe, is largely determined by the Senate, and from there, I believe the scrutiny functions are also determined. So we've not a lot of flexibility in what type of scrutiny we put in. We've obviously got control of what's within the scrutiny committees, but the actual committee structure is set on us. And perhaps at some stage when officers have got a little bit of time, they could look at some of the other sister councils around us and see how they have developed their scrutinies. Have they gone in different directions? Are there lessons we can learn? But please don't take that as something you've got
No, I think that's a valid point too, and I think as part of our work in democratic services and the scrutiny team to ensure that what we're doing is the best as we can, and we do a lot of research on what other councils do, and like you said, overviewing scrutiny is a statutory function, but there is flexibility within there, and I know other councils have their committee set up slightly differently. They're not necessarily in the same categories as we've got ours. So yeah, I think definitely doing a bit of peer review is always good to ensure we do the best.
I thought, Chair, I mean, that really, I'm not suggesting we set up loads and loads of working groups, because I'm sure we don't want to, because of the time commitment. But I mean, that was a really good example, I think, of where the committee perhaps did make a difference. The review
into the building services.
Because I really do think that it looks like what the committee came up with is really going to have an impact on what the council does.
And considering, going on that point specifically, there were 8 options that we could have looked at, and we one by one over 4 weeks we eliminated them one by one until we came to what we believe was the logical conclusion. And I understand that it's been accepted by cabinet, and the tender documents are being prepared at the moment. So yes, that's a very good point, Karen. That's a cross. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay, thank you. Right. So we've been asked to consider the draft scrutiny annual report, which I think we've done. We've agreed the scrutiny annual report. I think we can do. We don't seem to have any dissent on that one. And 1.3 on page 41, determine whether it wishes to make any comments and recommendations. And Neil, if I could pass over to you there to see exactly what we're going to say.
We've noted Councillor Cox's recommendation on improving public engagement, so we can take that on board. As Captain Voice, we're looking to work with PR to advertise our committee meetings better and what the dates and times where they're being held, what agenda items are going to be discussed. So perhaps we might get more residents actually coming to those meetings. Brings the example of the policy review group, which is a good instance of scrutiny work. Matching, is there any other comments or recommendations the committee would like to make in relation to the annual report?
Or we should see the outcome of the what you're going to do on the outcome.
From May onwards, isn't it, on the advisory report?
Yes.
Just to welcome that really.
The theories about peer review of the rallies, especially around tracking outcomes, I think.
Thank you. To check the scrutiny advice report on page 73, it's just Sam's included a list of recommendations that the committee have made over the last couple of meetings. Minutes of previous meetings were completed and queries made about the scrutiny corporate safeguarding annual report been sent, and 2 queries about providing a copy of the diagram demonstrating the complex safeguarding structure of the council, including partners, and providing a copy of the tables on page 18 once being clarified has been chased with the head of safeguarding. And we've got the draft version of the forward work programme presented to the committee. Next meeting to be discussing the climate change plan annual report, information risk report. July, we've got a digital strategy annual report and the annual self-assessment. September, we look at the qualities plan annual report and the adaptation policy. There's a couple of other meetings which is the spare at the moment, so if there was anything like us to look at and see if we could take a look at those and see if take this on board. Otherwise, sometimes we do get queries from the heads of service for any agenda items they wish to bring to the committee. So those 3 meetings are free at the moment. We currently got the 31st of January penciled in for the budget meeting. However, if this needs to change, we'll give the committee plenty of notification. The meeting in March, again, which is currently free at the moment. And at the end of April, we got the corporate safeguarding annual report.
On the 12th of September meeting, Neil, I've been asked to attend the Cardiff City regional deal. I would like to keep that one free if possible, but if there is something that needs to come to our committee, I will of course take this as a priority. Not going up to the Cardiff regional deal. Thank you. Any other comments on this? No. Well, thank you very much for your attendance this morning. We are
Not quite yet.